This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 231, Getting Your First Content Marketing Job, Advice for New Grads. Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we hope you grow your tribe and your bottom line through insanely good content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is June 15th, 2017. Hello, or as we say in Texas, howdy, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. Just a reminder, this podcast is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play Music, so if you like what you hear, please feel free to click on over and subscribe. I also invite you to download our complimentary audio resource, 5 Things You Must Know About Content Marketing. Download today to learn the 5 things you absolutely must know to reap the benefits of a solid content marketing program. To snag your free copy, go to contentmarketinggift.com. Last week, we talked about a new study by Edison Research that may make you want to give podcasting for your brand some serious consideration. If you happen to miss that episode, feel free to check it out on iTunes or via the RSS feed. If you are a recent graduate looking for your first content marketing job, today's podcast is just for you. We've got some real-world advice for landing that all-important first gig just out of school. But first, it's time to check in with our news feed for this week's rundown of news you can use. Not one, but 2 stories out of Big Papa Facebook to kick off this week's news feed. According to the news site Android Police, Facebook is building on the huge success of its live video feature with a new offering, and that is live audio. Now, the premise is the same. Users will be able to broadcast their voices to any Facebook user who happens to be tuning in. Facebook is currently testing the feature with media partners BBC World Service, LBC, and HarperCollins. And as far as a wide rollout is concerned, we're probably looking at next year, so early 2018. That will be available to more users, if not all users. And I think this is especially interesting, especially in light of the research that we talked about last week on the popularity of podcasting. So could it be that audio is the new video? We'll see. Next story out of Facebook is that in an effort to make Facebook Live more accessible to everyone, including the deaf community, Facebook has begun allowing publishers to include closed captions in their live videos. So there is a setting in your Facebook setting on your settings screen, and if your captioning setting is turned on, you will be able to automatically see closed captions for live videos when they're available. Now, if you're interested in enabling closed captions for your own live broadcast, there is a bit of a technical process to it, and Facebook has published a helpful guide. I will provide the link in the blog post for this episode at resonancecontent.com/podcast, and you can access that PDF and get closed captions set up for your own live broadcast. Good development out of Facebook. Good job, guys. Okay, our content hit of the week is called How to Tighten Up Your Content Marketing Strategy During a Slow Summer. This is by John Hall on the Forbes website. We are, of course, entering the summer months, which here in Southeast Texas, we know better than many places. The thermometer is climbing up, and up. And for many of us, that means a slower time of year. Now, I know if you're in like the travel or hospitality industry, you're saying, Parker, what are you talking about? We are crazy, crazy busy. But for a lot of industries, this is a slower time of year, right? People are taking vacations. In terms of content consumption tends to go down. People aren't downloading as many resources. So it's a slower time of year. And in this article, John talks about how we can make good use of this time to give our content marketing strategies a bit of a tune-up, because we're almost halfway through the year. We've got some good data behind us, so we can look back and say, okay, what needs to be tweaked? What do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? And then we will be in a much better position for when things ramp back up in the fall. It's an excellent read, and I will, of course, include a link in the blog post for this episode at resonancecontent.com/podcast. That is it for this week's update. If you stumble across something you think might be of interest to your fellow content marketers, please tweet it to me at @RachParker so that we can share. Now it's time for this week's Spotlight segment, Getting Your First Content Marketing Job, Advice for New Grads. Da 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 da. Congratulations, class of 2017. You made it. You made it through the classes, the exams, the all-night study sessions, the group projects. You made it through all of that, got your degree in your hot little hands, and now you are ready to seek out that all-important first job in content marketing. So, as my graduation gift to you, I'm going to share some strategies that I have learned on both sides of the hiring process to help you land that first gig. And by the way, this isn't just for new grads. If you are making a career shift to content marketing from, say, journalism or advertising or another discipline, you will definitely find these tips helpful as well. So as I mentioned, I have experience on both sides of the hiring process. I've been a candidate at many points in my career, and then when I worked for a large agency, and then when I worked at corporate, I had the experience of being on the hiring side. And during that experience on both sides, I learned quite a bit about what works and what doesn't. And today I'm excited to share with you my top 10 tips. Yes, I came up with 10 of them, top 10 tips for landing that first job. Tip number 1. And when I mention this to folks who seek my advice, it's like a light bulb goes off. And that is, don't think of it as a job search. Think of it as a marketing campaign with you as the product. And sometimes when I mention that to fresh new marketers, it's like mind blown. But it's true. You are the product and you are a marketer. So marketer, market thyself. Use those marketing skills that you have been learning over the course of your education to market yourself. And I see so many marketers who are not doing that. They're out on LinkedIn and their description is boring and their experience is boring and it's not engaging. It's like they just kind of mailed it in. But no, you're a marketer. So be a marketer as you go out and seek this first job. And that comes to your approach as well. Sometimes I talk to folks who are in your situation seeking their first job, and I say, well, what are you doing? Well, how are you landing that job? And they say, well, I'm on LinkedIn, checking the job boards every day, seeing what's out there. And, that would be the equivalent of a marketing team saying, well, we're just going to look for people who we know are looking for our product. And we're just going to focus on that. And if there's nothing out there, if there's no demand today, then we'll try again tomorrow. No, they have a target audience. They know what works with that target audience. They know what problems their product is solving, and they go out after those folks. And as marketers who are marketing ourselves as solutions to a problem, which is all the hiring process is, right? These companies have a need, they have a problem that they need solved, and you are the solution. So as you look at your job search, think about it as a marketing campaign with you as the fantastic, sensational, wonderful product that no one should be without. And I just lost my place in my show notes. Moment. Okay, here we go. Tip number 2 is focus on your strengths. One thing that drives me absolutely batty when I hear someone is looking for a job in marketing, I say, well, what do you do? And they say, oh, I can do anything. I can write, I can do graphic design, I can do SEO, I can do PPC campaigns, I can do strategy, I can do social media, I can do anything. There are 2 problems with that approach. Number 1, you're implying that you don't do any one thing particularly well, that you're kind of a jack of all trades and master of none. Not a great position to be coming from. And number 2, it sounds a little bit desperate when you put your capabilities in that frame. You sound a little bit desperate. It's kind of like the guy who is, he's so desperate for a date that he's willing to be anything. So he sits down with someone he met online and says, I can be whatever you want. I can be outdoorsy. I can be romantic. I can be stoic. I can be into sports. I can be into chick flicks. And it just comes across as really, really desperate. So what I advise you to do, by the way, I want to share with you where I see the job market in terms of content marketing. Because on one end of the spectrum, you have really, really laser-focused specialists. And on the other side, you have hugely broad-based generalists, the folks who say, yes, I can do anything. And where I'm seeing the focus, where I'm seeing the need is generally in the middle, but focused more towards the specialist. The way I see it is people are looking for flexible specialists. So they don't necessarily want a jack of all trades, but they want, a writer who is capable of going on Canva and creating a quick graphic for social media. Or they want an SEO person who can write a decent blog post now and then. That's where I see the need. So as you position yourself, think about your greatest strengths. Or to put it another way, what would you want to spend 80% of your time doing in this job that you envision for yourself? Because if you market yourself as being able to do anything and someone hires you and your passion is SEO, but they've got you writing blog posts 80% of the time, that's not going to work. You're not going to be happy. You're probably not going to do a great job because that's not where your greatest strength lies. And that job might not last very long because it's obviously not a good fit. So as you position yourself, focus on your greatest strengths, and then if it comes up in conversation, mention those other capabilities. So position yourself as just a kick-ass content writer. I'm a writer. I can write blog posts. I can write white papers, blah, blah, blah. But I can also use Canva to create simple graphic design. But I also know how SEO works. But I also can write for PPC campaigns. And that way you're positioning yourself as that flexible specialist that is very much in demand in the marketing world today. So that is tip number 2, focus on your strengths. Tip number 3, get the word out. Okay. And this sounds really basic. It just sounds, let people know you're looking. But I'm surprised by how many people skip this step. Either out on job boards, they're doing what they need to do, but their friends and family and colleagues and acquaintances don't know that they're looking. So get the word out, and whatever you need to do, whether call people, and yes, phones do still work for calling. Don't forget that. Call people, email them, message them on LinkedIn, and say, "Hey, I'm recently graduated, or I'm in transition and looking for a fantastic job in content marketing. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I bring to the table. Please keep me in mind if you hear of anything." And that is so simple to do, but so many people don't do it. So look at your contact list, look at family, look at friends, look at people in your church, people in your community, second and third degrees of separation, someone who might know someone who you know, and get that word out. Make sure that everyone in your extended circles knows, A, that you are looking for your next career adventure, and B, what you're looking for, and C, what you specifically bring to the table. And you might be surprised at what comes up. Tip number 4, LinkedIn is your friend. LinkedIn is not just your friend. LinkedIn is your best friend. So I want you to buy it flowers. I want you to take it to lunch. I want you to take it for long walks on the beach. Get to know LinkedIn very well and make it a part of your life, and not just the job openings. Sometimes job seekers will go to LinkedIn, check the job boards, and if there's nothing there, then they log out and they're done for the day. But actively grow your network. Look online or look on LinkedIn and find companies that you would love to work for, and see if you can connect with people in those marketing departments. Because that way you are getting yourself in front of those people. You're part of their community. You're seeing their posts. You're seeing their posts. You're seeing their posts. They're seeing your posts. And just get on each other's radar, because that's going to enable you to follow up with those folks, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. Tip number 5, once LinkedIn is your best friend, I've got 2 pieces of advice specific to LinkedIn. Number 1 is to network on LinkedIn daily. And that means post content, whether you are posting an infographic from HubSpot or a great article on marketing profs or the review of a great book that you just finished, post new content, and then you want to go out and look at what other people are posting. You want to be liking their posts, commenting on their posts, maybe sharing their posts. If someone shares something that really is in your realm of something that interests you, go ahead and share it. So network on LinkedIn and make that a daily practice. Tip number 6, publish on LinkedIn. Remember, now we have LinkedIn Publisher, which lets us create longer form content, more in-depth, and share it with our community. And this is going to position you as an expert. So whatever your area is within content marketing, whether it's SEO, whether it's content writing, whether it's design, whether it's creating websites or landing pages, publish on LinkedIn and show people your expertise, even if it's just the top 5 articles that you came across this week. Put the link to the article and put a little commentary about why it's interesting to you and how it taps into the needs of marketers today. And that's really going to grow your thought leadership. And when people find you on LinkedIn, they're going to see those publications and say, wow, Jeff really knows what he's talking about, or Sharon really knows what she's talking about. I want to talk to this person about coming onto my team. So don't forget about that LinkedIn publishing feature. And I would aim to publish once a week. If you have time to put that content together and publish on LinkedIn, absolutely do it, because that is going to be part of your best. It's going to be one of your best PR assets when you think about what you're doing on LinkedIn. Tip number 7. Oh, yeah, this one's a tough one. Master the art of in-person networking. And yes, I just saw you cringe. I just saw you cringe when I said that. Don't think you're hiding, because I saw you. In-person networking. So I know it's a challenge. I keep reading about how millennials and now Gen Z, they grew up online and haven't mastered those in-person relationships, and they get frustrated, and they're challenged by this whole in-person networking thing. And I get it. I totally get it. I am a dyed-in-the-wool introvert myself. Sometimes when people hear my podcast, they're surprised to hear that, but it's true. I would rather get a root canal than walk into a room full of strangers and have to introduce myself and start relationships. But I will tell you right here, right now, in-person networking is a skill that will serve you well for the rest of your career. It will serve you getting your first job. It will serve you getting your second, third, fourth, and fifth job. If you start a company, if you start freelancing, it will serve you well there. It's a perfect tool to have in your toolbox, because I don't care what we're doing online or how fantastic online networking becomes, there is no substitute for a handshake, for an in-person smile, how are you, a little small talk. There's just no substitute for that. And I think it's ingrained in our DNA to respond more positively and more actively to those in-person conversations. Remember, we came from cavemen and cavewomen, and in-person interactions was all that they had. So pursue those in-person networking opportunities. Check out your local chapters of AMA, BMA, IABC. Also, you might want to check Meetup for interesting groups in your area. And then as you get out there, and I promise you, it will get easier. I promise you that. The first few times you get out there is going to be like pulling teeth, and you're probably not going to be very good at it. And that's fine. It's a learning experience. You know, Michael Jordan wasn't very good first time he stepped out on a basketball court. And you will probably not be a phenomenon when you start in-person network, but it will get better and you will get more comfortable. And then as you meet people at these in-person events, be sure to follow up with a LinkedIn connection. If someone is in the circles that you want to start moving in, make sure that you follow up and connect with that person on LinkedIn, because that makes your connection sticky. that puts you on each other's radars, and it makes much more likely that you're going to build an active network that's going to help you land that all-important first job. Tip number 8 is akin to tip number 7, and that is to have some business cards made. You can go on Vistaprint or any other, any number of online resources, and you can get business cards made really cheaply. And it's just make it very, very simple. Not a lot of graphics, not a lot of colors, not 15 different colors and a whole circus going on. Just have a very simple business card made with your name, your title that you want. So whether it's content writer, content creation specialist, SEO specialist, whatever it is, and then of course your contact information. And so that when you go to these in-person networking events, you will have something to share with people, and they will have something to take away and to remember you by. And it really shows a level of professionalism, and it shows that you're serious about getting that all-important job. So go ahead, spend a little money, go to Vistaprint or go to your local FedEx Kinko's. They can do business cards for you well. Get maybe 100, 200 business cards made and use them. Give them out at these events and show people that you're a professional and that you are serious about pursuing that career opportunity. Tip number 9. Oh, this is a big one. Make informational interviewing a part of your strategy. So sometimes I will get requests from people, and I love getting these requests. It will go something like this. Hi, Rachel, we're connected on LinkedIn, or we may have never met in person, but we have a mutual connection. I am looking for my first job in content marketing, and I am doing some research. May I have 50 minutes of your time on the phone just to talk about your experience and your, how you got to where you are today, what you've learned from jobs you've had. I would love to learn from your experience. And I'm very excited whenever I receive those requests. And I'm always very happy to give that person my time. So think about doing that as you connect on LinkedIn with people who are working in companies that you want to work at. Talk to them about setting up an informational interview and phrase it just like I did. Doesn't need to be a long drawn out email. Say how you're connected with this person. Ask for 15 minutes of their time on the phone. And think about it. You're inviting them to talk about themselves. Who doesn't like to talk about themselves? So now, as you do that, be very strategic about your call to action. And I'll tell you why. A couple of months ago, I got a request like this from a young lady who was looking for a job in content marketing. She phrased it, her communication, just like I said, but she ended it with this call to action. Please call me at your earliest convenience at 713 blah, 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 blah. That killed it. That just killed it right there. Why? Because you are asking me to work. You're asking me to pick up the phone, dial a number, and call you so that I can help you. Now, yes, I would be talking about myself, but I would be willing to bet that this young lady did not get a lot of takers. The correct call to action is this. May I ask for 15 minutes of your time on the phone to talk about, to share your experience with me. Please let me know a date and time when you might be available and the best number for me to call you. And you might want to save that for the next round. Like if you ask for 15 minutes of their time and they say, yes, that's fine, your next communication will be fantastic. What's a good day time for you? And what's a good number for me to call you? That way, the onus is on you. You are doing all the work, and this person, all they have to do is answer the phone and give you 15 minutes. Now, after you get that informational interview, there are two things that you need to keep in mind. Number one, end the interview with two specific questions. Number one, who else should I be talking to? Who do you know who would be helpful for me to chat with? And then number two, ask them, don't tell them, ask them, may I send you a copy of my resume just in case something comes up at your company that fits my capabilities? And more often than not, they will say, yes, absolutely. Now, what happens to that resume is anyone's guess, but at least they have it. And if a position does come up and they happen to recall your conversation, and if that resume is somewhere on their hard drive, then that automatically gives you a leg up on any other competition. So informational interviewing is a great way to get in front of people in a non-pushy, hey, you hiring, you want to hire me, in a non-pushy way. You get people to talk about themselves. You learn more. I mean, it is a learning experience, so you will learn a lot, and it will get you on those folks' radars. So make that a part of your strategy, and make sure that you are requesting those informational interviews on a regular basis. Always approach it with professionalism and respect, and you may be surprised at the results. Okay, 10th and final tip I have for you: follow up, follow up, follow up. I've been on the hiring side, as I mentioned, and I've had the experience of I get through the resume review, I interview a bunch of people, and then all of a sudden I get completely sidetracked on another project, and I'm not able to even think about these interviews that I've just conducted. So following up is not a dirty word. It's not pestering people. It's not bothering them. It's following up, and my secret weapon for following up is the handwritten note card. Handwritten note cards are like gold because no one's doing them. No one's sending handwritten note cards. What are you kidding me? I mean, think about the last time you saw a handwritten card in your mail. It's like, oh my gosh, someone actually picked up a pen, wrote out a card to me, put a stamp on it, and put it in the mail. What? Are you kidding me? So after you do these informational interviews, send the person a handwritten note card if possible. You know, some companies are purely virtual. They don't have a physical location. In that case, an email works fine just to say thank you. But even after you do job interviews for positions, follow up with a handwritten note card, and don't be afraid to follow up with the person if you don't hear back from them. Like I said, I've been in the situation, get into the process, get sidetracked, and I was actually happy to hear from those people because, again, that shows a certain professionalism. So I think once every couple of weeks is not too often if you do it with courtesy and respect. If you want to send that person an email saying, I know how busy you are, I just wanted to follow up, see if you have any more questions for me, see if there's anything further that I can provide you in terms of the hiring process. That's it. That's all you have to do. But make sure you follow up with those people. And you never know. Those final decisions, they're not always completely logical. I hate to say that, but it's true. It's not feeding everyone into a calculator and then coming out with the best candidate. And your follow-up is something that goes on to, as they say, goes on to your record, something that people remember about you. It shows professionalism. It shows serious intent, and it's going to do well as long as you do it with courtesy and respect. And of course, don't hound people. I think every 2 or 3 weeks is a good cadence to keep up with. And then if you followed up with them 5 or 6 times or even 3 or 4 times and you don't get a response, then it's fine to say, okay, I'm guessing that they have gone another direction and focus on something else. So those are my top 10 tips for recent grads or not so recent grads on the quest for your first content marketing job. If you have any questions or want to add to the conversation, or if you have any wonderful job hunting tips that you would like to share, feel free to tweet me at @RachParker. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. For today's tip, I have some writing advice for my fellow content creators. And this tip came about when I was watching the latest season of Food Network Star on the Food Network. If you've never seen this, it's a reality show where these contestants go through a process, and they're trying to determine who's going to be the next Food Network personality. And one of the things that they do is they teach contestants how to talk about their food while they're on camera. It's a challenge because, of course, the audience can't smell anything. They can't taste anything, certainly, through the screen. So it's really up to the person in front of the camera to be able to describe their food well and to make the people on the other side of the screen really want it and really want to create it. And one specific thing that they teach them to do is to stay away from words like delicious or yummy, because they're not descriptive. those words, the word like delicious all it says is this food is pleasing to me. And that's not something that anyone can latch onto. It's like saying, okay, you like it. Well, why do you like it? And why would I like it? So they teach them to say, okay, why is it delicious? Is it savory? Is it creamy? Is it tangy? Is it gooey? Is it sweet? Give some real description that connects with the person on the other side of the screen and makes them want what you are preparing. So this week, I challenge you to think about that in your content creation, whether you're writing blog posts or podcast scripts or video scripts, because when we use generic adjectives like excellent or fantastic or, God forbid, the most overused word in the universe, amazing, you're not telling people much. You're just saying that this is something I perceive to be of high quality. Tell them why it's excellent. Tell them why it's fantastic. Take them with you on the journey that led you to the conclusion that what you're talking about was or is excellent or fantastic. By making this little adjustment, you offer the audience a deeper, richer experience. As a result, you will find they are far more likely to engage with your content and, more importantly, that they will keep coming back for more. Okay, campers, that is it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. If you like what you've heard, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play Music or via our RSS feed. And if you really like what you've heard, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. I would so appreciate it. Also, if you want to learn more about content marketing, you will definitely want to grab a copy of my book, The Content Marketing Coach, Everything You Need to Get in the Game and Win. It's available in both book and Kindle format. To learn more about the book, to download a free chapter, and to hear what thought leaders like Joe Pulizzi thought about it, spoiler alert, they really liked it, visit contentmarketingcoachbook.com. As you know, I always like to leave you with a quote, and today's quote comes from Steve Kerr, the coach of the newly crowned NBA champion team, the Golden State Warriors. Steve Kerr once said, quote, "The future is coming so fast, we can't possibly predict it. We can only learn to respond quickly," unquote. Good advice from the coach of the new NBA champions. Congratulations to the Golden State Warriors. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you again next week. Take care.